All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive on a really, a really interesting character, Mephistopheles. And we've got this article here from mythology.net, and it's pretty fascinating.
Oh yeah, he's a much more complex figure than most people realize.
Yeah, it's like, everyone kind of knows the name, from Faust.
Right.
The legend, like the scholar makes the deal with the devil for knowledge and pleasure and all that. But the thing is, like, the devil's representative in this story isn't exactly who you picture.
Yeah.
When you think of, like,
Yeah. No. You wouldn't think a devil.
right, he's not like this, like, big red-horned guy with a pitchfork.
Yeah.
The article actually points out that he's much more like, he's described as this really stylish demon, but also, like, surprisingly reluctant.
Really?
Yeah.
So he's not out there, like.
Yeah, he wasn't, like, actively searching for Faust. It says he was kind of just passing by when he sensed this, like, yearning in Faust.
That's so strange. A demon who tries to discourage a deal with the devil. What is that?
Right, like, what's his angle? Is he, like, is this genuine, or is it some kind of, like, weird...
Is he messing with him?
Yeah.
Yeah. The article even says that he tries to, like, talk Faust out of it by describing his own personal hell.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
A demon with a private hell? Okay, we got to circle back to that.
Oh, we're going there.
We're definitely going there. But first, like, can you paint a picture of this guy for me? Because you said stylish, and the article mentioned that too.
Yes. Well, the article describes him as, like, pale and having sharp features, but he's always dressed really well, like, impeccably.
Huh.
Like in red and black Renaissance clothing. It even mentions, like, a pointed beard, these, like, tapering fingernails.
Oh, wow.
And, like, slanted eyebrows. And it even says that there are hints of, like, horns or wings or a tail sometimes.
It's like he's not fully...
It's subtle.
Yeah, it's subtle. Like, he's kind of, like, downplaying his true nature or something.
Like, maybe he's ashamed of what he is, or maybe he just likes messing with people,
It's so creepy.
All right.
Like, imagine just seeing this figure,
Wow, it's like...
not some, like, monstrous thing, but,
It's
like...
just unsettlingly stylish.
Yeah, like a really well-dressed demon.
Exactly.
It's like, what?
Yeah, it really makes you wonder about his motivations.
Totally. So, okay, so he gives Faust this warning about, his own personal hell.
Yeah.
But does Faust back out after that?
No, he doesn't. He's just so desperate for knowledge and experience that he's like, yep, I'm in. And then Mephistopheles, like, despite his initial reluctance, he totally delivers on his end of the bargain. We're talking, like, wealth, beautiful women,
Okay.
time travel, like trips to the stars, like wild experiences.
So it's like the full Faustian bargain?
The whole 9 yards.
But wait, so doesn't that make his reluctance in the beginning even weirder?
It really does. It's
Yeah.
like he almost didn't want to corrupt Faust, but he, like, had to or something.
Like he was being forced to.
Yeah, the article even says that eventually Faust is like, if I had as many souls as there are stars, I would give them all for Mephistopheles. Like, that's how devoted he becomes.
Wow, he's like all in on this guy?
Totally. But here's the thing, like, what's really interesting is how Mephistopheles reacts to all this.
Like he's not happy about it?
No, not at all. Like, he's fulfilling his end of the bargain, right? But he remains, like, super cynical the whole time, constantly reminding Faust about, like, hey, eternal damnation is waiting for you.
Oh, God.
And, like, just making all these bitter observations about humanity and civilization.
So it's like he's granting Faust's wildest dreams.
Yeah.
But also, like, constantly, like, reminding him of the Christ.
Right. It's twisted.
That is so messed up. But, I mean, could it be that he's actually concerned about Faust's soul?
It's hard to say. I mean, he does say this one quote in the article that's kind of chilling. He says, all that comes to be deserves to perish wretchedly. 'Twere better nothing would begin.
It's dark.
Right. Like, is that something someone would say if they were genuinely trying to help? Or is it like he's getting some kind of perverse pleasure out of, like, humanity's downfall?
He sounds so jaded. Like
Yeah.
he's just seen it all and he's just over it,
Completely disillusioned. Yeah, the article doesn't really go into his backstory a ton, but it does highlight how complex he is.
Okay.
Like, he's serving Lucifer, right?
Right.
But he seems to resent both the devil's power and humanity's weakness.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like he's trapped in this system that he hates and forced to play a role that he loathes.
Yeah, it's like he's a fallen angel, but like
Right.
he regrets it, but he can't escape.
Totally. But he's still bound to do, Lucifer's bidding. It's really fascinating. I think that's part of what makes Mephistopheles so interesting,
Yeah.
The article doesn't really give us, like, a clear answer.
Right.
It's up to us to figure out,
Now you got to kind of grapple with all these, like,
Exact.
you have to come
You're
to
meant to come to your own conclusions about him.
Yeah, and it's like, we talk about the Faustian bargain. Like,
Right.
that's like such a,
Common phrase.
yeah, it's like a cultural touchstone. But how often do people actually think about Mephistopheles?
Yeah, he's like the forgotten player in all of this.
Yeah, like everyone remembers the, like the dangers of temptation, all that.
Yeah, price of ambition.
But no one really remembers the guy who like orchestrates the whole thing.
Right, like he just fades into the background.
Do you think that's intentional though?
What do you mean?
Like, is part of his power tied to his anonymity? Like he's more effective when we don't recognize him?
Oh, that's interesting. It would definitely fit with his whole like subtle and deceptive nature, right? Like maybe he's more dangerous when we don't even realize he's there.
Yeah, it's like a real life cautionary tale.
It is.
Be aware of like the whispers of doubt and desire because they can lead you down a bad path.
Exactly.
And
like
you could end up making a deal with the wrong
guy.
Yeah.
And not even realize it.
The article even mentions how the Faust legend evolved over time. Like there are all these different interpretations.
No, right. In some of the early versions, he's just like a straightforward demon, but later on you have versions like Goethe's Faust that really dive into the nuances of his character.
Oh yeah, in Goethe's version, Faust ends up being saved.
By God's grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, big twist.
That's a huge change from like the original story.
It is.
What do you think is the meaning of that?
Well, some scholars think it reflects Goethe's own beliefs about like human nature and redemption. Like maybe he was saying that even people who make deals with the devil can still find salvation.
So even though Mephistopheles held up his end of the bargain, it's like he was totally undermined.
By a higher power.
Yeah.
God.
It's kind of ironic, like cosmic karma or something.
Right.
It makes you wonder though, like does Mephistopheles secretly want Faust to be saved?
Interesting.
Even though he's like, working for Lucifer.
Like deep down, is he kind of rebelling against his own nature?
Yeah.
That's a great question. And it makes you think about like free will versus destiny. If he's bound to serve evil, like how much agency does he really have?
Right. Is he truly evil or is he just like
a pawn?
Yeah, like a cog in the machine and he can't escape.
But if that's true, like does that excuse his actions?
Yeah. Or does it make him even more tragic?
Right. That's a tough question.
I mean, I'm starting to feel like this Mephistopheles guy.
Yeah.
He's a lot more than just like a villain.
Oh, yeah. He's way more complex than that.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about the Faust legend. It doesn't give us easy answers.
Right.
Like, we have to grapple with these questions about good and evil and temptation.
Yeah. And ultimately our own choices, right?
Exactly.
Speaking of choices, the article mentions this one quote from Mephistopheles about existence, where he says, "All that comes to be deserves to perish wretchedly. 'Twere better nothing would begin."
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bleak. Like, is he saying that, like, nothing matters because everything just ends eventually?
It does kind of sound like that, but maybe there's more to it. Like, maybe it's coming from a place of, disillusionment. Oh, you mean like...
Yeah, like he's seen this endless cycle of creation and destruction.
Over centuries.
Exactly, and it's just worn him down.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's like a warning to Faust, Like a reminder that even the things he's chasing after...
Like the knowledge and the pleasure.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's temporary.
It doesn't last.
Right. And it makes you think about, what really matters in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. If everything is just going to disappear anyway, what are we really striving for?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's deep.
It is. It's a really thought-provoking quote, and I think it speaks to the brilliance of Mephistopheles.
Yeah, he's not just some, mustache twirling villain.
Right. He's more than that.
He's like making us question everything.
Yeah, he's like a mirror reflecting all of our deepest desires and anxieties.
And the shadow side of our ambition.
Exactly like that part of us that wants power and knowledge.
Even if it costs us, our soul.
And his story makes us confront that part of ourselves.
Yeah, and ask ourselves, what would I be willing to give up to get what I want? Right, and maybe even more importantly, who am I willing to make that deal with?
Because it's not always a literal demon.
Right.
It could be like, compromising your values or,
Right, or giving in to temptation.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of Mephistopheles figures in our lives,
I like that. That's good.
It's true.
So yeah, I mean, this deep dive has really changed how I see Mephistopheles.
Yeah, he's definitely more than meets the eye.
He's like this tragic figure in a way.
Absolutely. And he really highlights how, the lines between good and evil aren't always so clear.
And sometimes the biggest battles are the ones within ourselves.
Exactly.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Ooh. Ooh, I like it.
If you were face to face with your own Mephistopheles, and I don't mean a literal demon, but like
Yeah,
whatever represents your deepest desires.
your temptation.
Yeah. Would you resist? Or would you make the deal knowing what it might cost you?
That's a great question to ponder. And maybe that's exactly what Mephistopheles wants us to do,
Yeah.
To question our choices and figure out what really matters.
Yeah, he makes us really think about our motivations and take responsibility for the
deals we make,
the deals we make. Yeah.
both with ourselves and with the world around us.
Well said.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for today's deep dive on Mephistopheles. What a fascinating character.
He really is. There's always more to uncover with him.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.